Hello, Keegan Matheson, MLB.com. Hi, Ross. What can you tell us about what Bo has done the last couple of days and where he's at in terms of the ALDS?
Yeah, every day's gotten better for him. I think he said it best. He's doing everything possible to be ready as soon as possible. We don't have a date. It's day to day, and our staff is aligned with that.
Beyond Bo, what are the handful of major decisions you're looking at right now on the roster these next couple of days? Where's your mind at?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a little bit bigger than a handful because it's not just roster decisions, it's also deployment. And then obviously it will have some impact on who we're playing. Will implicate not all of the decisions, but some of them. So the more information we have, we're going to take the time to get all of it. And our health as well.
Hey Ross, Mitch Bannon from The Athletic.
Mitch?
Just wondering how you guys have approached this week not playing baseball games and how you kind of combat the rest versus rust here.
How we combat the
rest versus rust of this week.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the
rest versus rust.
Rest. Okay, got you. Versus rust. Yeah, I mean, obviously we've tried to be creative by bringing some fans in. We're going to play a couple of games and brought in additional talent into the building so that we can break up some of the monotony of that. And then I think it's leaning into any opportunity we have to prepare in a better way and optimize some of the rest for sure, and guys that are nicked up and certain individuals that have had exceptional workloads, but then lean into opportunities for not necessarily development, but is there any way that we can help someone with this downtime and when you're not competing at the highest level to try and make really small adjustments.
And then just looking back at the last three playoff experiences, the losses, is there anything, maybe less on the player side, more on the coach and front office level, that you guys have learned from that you will kind of attack this playoff a little differently?
Yeah, absolutely. I think some of that has been roster construction that we've tried to lean into the contact and defense, which has proven to be effective in playoff stretches. Obviously, deployment will be a part of that we've thought long and hard about. And then ultimately, these guys have learned how to prepare better. They've focused on getting better. Our staff and players, front office, myself, we've all focused on how we can be better at our jobs. And our preparation has evolved. That has evolved into more confidence. And hopefully that evolves into more belief for our players, which we've seen that play out this year.
Ross, Schneider Sportsnet. In terms of decisions that you have made already or things that you know, like what's set from a rotation perspective and from a position player perspective, what do you know that you're going to be doing on Saturday?
Yeah, I think Kirky will be catching, Vladdy will be playing first, and we are near finalizing a couple of our rotation decisions, but haven't finalized them yet.
What is Ty France's status? Will he be?
He's feeling better. He's hopefully we see him over the next couple of days in some live at bats, but he's progressing at a level that he could be a factor for us.
Hey Ross, Gregor Chisholm, Toronto Star. With Vladdy, he was kind of a tale of two Septembers. He was really, really good in the first half, struggled a bit in the second half. What did you see between the difference between the two, and how does he get back to how he was going in the first half?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we see all of the same things that you and our fans see, and are constantly focused on what we can support better, how we can help individuals, and Vladdy's not one we worry about. He's been one of the best players in the game, will continue to be. He's going to be a force for us in the playoffs.
If Bichette is not available to go, there'll probably be an even bigger spotlight on Vladdy in this upcoming series. How do you think he'll respond to the kind of that extra attention?
Oh, exceptionally well, but I also think he has some pretty strong support around him. But he embraces it, he loves it, and I'm excited for him and our team.
Hi, Rosie DeMano, Toronto
Rosie.
Star. Hoffman, his velocity has dipped significantly from April, and I was just wondering, I mean, a lot more runs, a lot of saves, but a lot of runs, a lot of home runs, a lot of walks. How confident are you in him as your closer? Because those can be crushing defeats, as you well know.
Yeah, I mean, Jeff's been incredible for us this year. He's pitched a ton in the highest stress innings you could possibly be pitching in, and he's handled it well. We have a ton of confidence in Jeff, and we'll continue to. I think he should benefit from this time as well, these 6 days of having a little bit of a blow.
Go ahead, Ben.
Hey, Ross. Ben Nicholson-Smith with Sportsnet. You mentioned you're still working through some of the rotation decisions, but how do you anticipate approaching that? Like, will it be traditional starters, or in years past you guys have done some more creative approaches where it's kind of mixing and matching, or would it be some of both? What are you guys looking at on that front?
Yeah, I mean, the answer I can give you with certainty is that we're still working through it. But we are open to everything's on the table and want to work through that with our players before we make those decisions.
As of a few days ago, it seemed like Barrios was maybe further away and Bassett was getting close to returning. Any change on that front, or how are those two guys doing?
That's correct. Yeah, Jose still is not throwing, so it would be hard for him to be a factor in this part of this portion of the playoffs. And Chris is progressing very well.
Barrios a factor potentially for later in the
We'll
post?
see.
We'll see.
He's still not thrown. He had a checkup with Dr. Meister, and it confirmed there's no structural damage, so we're not taking it off the table, but we're just going to go a day at a time.
Hey, Ross. Mike Wilner from the Toronto Star.
Mike.
With the layoff, what have you learned, I guess, or what have you taken from other teams in the past that have had these 5 days off, and whether they've been successful or have not? Are there lessons learned there?
Yeah, we've downloaded what every team has done over the years, and talked about it, discussed it with our staff, talked about it internally. We talked about it a lot more internally before we clinched, before we brought it to our staff's attention, worked through some creative ideas, and ultimately decided upon the schedule that you guys see ahead of us the next couple of days.
And just, to more roster questions, as far as Santander goes, he's been back for a week, and we saw that he missed the Grand Slam by a couple of inches, but was 1 for 10 with 6 strikeouts. What did you see from him in the week, and is he ready to contribute in a postseason?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is he was covering fastballs. He was on them. He wasn't getting beat by them. He did swing and miss some. There were some called strikeouts, but he was covering very good velocity at the top of the zone. So that was a huge benchmark for him and for us to be coming back relatively short order, and only having seen, you don't see that type of velocity as much in AAA, so that was very encouraging.
Hi, Ross. Jonah Bierbaum from The Score. Ross, is this season a success in your mind after 94 wins and a division title, or are you withholding judgment on that until October's over?
It's such an interesting question. I mean, obviously, no executive or player or manager is ever happy going home without the title. But what this team has accomplished this year, we feel is powerful and indicative of the work that they've put in, the preparation that they've put in, and we're very proud of them.
And, I mean, you emphasized internal improvements as such a critical pathway to this team getting from where they were last year to where they are now. How gratifying is it for you to see this season come on the backs of Alejandro Kirk bouncing back, George Springer bouncing back in a massive way, things like that?
Yeah, to see the exuberance on their faces is probably the most gratifying thing for a lot of us. That is, it's very well said how you phrased it.
Rob Longley, Toronto Sun. Ross, almost to a man, the guys in the clubhouse talk about how much unity there is with this team. Is that something that happens organically, or what do you think is the major cause for this team being as close as it appears to be?
Yeah, every environment's different. I wish I had the silver bullet answer for that. We do place a lot of energy and emphasis on trying to create the best one possible. It's think it starts with values. It starts with identification of people that align with those values, and then making decisions with those things that are important to us as an organization. And then when you start to see the players articulating those things and focused on things bigger than themselves, then it usually turns into a very positive environment. But it's never one thing. It's not just the emphasis. It's not just identification of those things. It's not just winning. But ultimately, in my opinion, if you prepare better and better and you focus on getting better and better every day, that turns into confidence. And then that confidence turns into belief. And then you have an environment that people want to thrive in.
And just going back to Vlad for a minute, how much more mature is he now than he was when he was previously in the playoffs? And you mentioned that you believe he's going to be a force in the playoffs. Can you elaborate on why you believe that will be the case?
It's just remarkable what he's done already. Like everything, the way he goes about his day, the way that he prepares, the player he's become on both sides of the ball is remarkable at this stage in his career. And he's got a lot more winning and a lot more exceptional baseball ahead of him.
Yeah, Raj, Buck Martinez, Sportsnet. You signed Vladdy, but signing Kirk, what was it about Kirk as the person and the player that allowed you to commit to him for 5 years? Because obviously he's responded very well to that.
Yeah, I mean, Kirky, obviously he's gotten a lot of attention over the last week and really this year, all-star performances as well. But he is such an exceptional Major League Baseball player in the way that he is so consistent. There's never any surprises with him, and there's never any letdown. So we've been blown away by Alejandro from day one when he came into the pandemic as coming out of A-ball with very minimal exposure to the upper levels of the minor leagues. And we all talk about composure and heartbeat and say things like there's no panic. And he is the epitome of handling those ebbs and flows of energy, adrenaline, expectations. Buck, you know much better than I do, but watching how agile and soft he stays at crucial moments as a receiver to get massive advantages for us as a receiver, as a game caller, and as a controlling the running game as well. His blocking is exceptional, and it's just so consistent. And I haven't even talked about the fact that he's a good offensive player too. So he's in the middle of our lineup performing in really big moments, and he's just the same player every day. And that is, it's hard to find.
With John Schneider, and I believe that he has a lot to do with the chemistry of this ball club. What have you seen from Schneider, the improvements as a manager over your course of your relationship?
Yeah, his baseball acumen and his intellect, I think, is exceptional. I know that this group knows that's around him on a daily basis. His recall, his passion for baseball, understanding the very, very small details that are exceptionally important to win over 162 is a clear foundation for him. But I actually think the strengths that allow that foundation to excel are his positivity and the human being. Like similar to Alejandro Kirk and just how consistent he is. I've never been around someone as consistently positive as John Schneider is. It's not an act, it is authentic, and he treats people indicative of that positivity, and I think that allows for our environment to thrive.
Hi, Ross. Ben Schulman, Sportsnet. Now with a couple days to step back from it, how do you assess that final couple weeks of the season where you went on a big streak, then obviously there was the slide. and then the big streak again. How do you look at your team's performance kind of going into this playoff run?
Yeah, positively. Obviously the fact that we did respond after a tough 4 games in Tampa and Kansas City, that is really powerful. I think that response offensively, the starting pitching, our bullpen was exceptional over the last stretch of games, so very positively.
Hey Ross, Jamie Strachan with CBC. At the beginning of the season, this wasn't a team that people expected a lot of. I think the over/under on wins was in the mid-70s. The fan base was restless. There was a lot of pressure on you. What made you believe that that the roster you had constructed could win 94 games?
Yeah, I've said it a lot. A lot of people in this room are probably bored of me talking about it, but this group has won together a lot. Not enough to reach our goals, but it's hard to win more than you lose in the AL East, and they have done it more than most teams. I think over the last 5 years, over the last 5 years, we've won more than anybody but the Yankees. I'd like to be the team that's winning more than the Yankees, but that's not, anyway, it's not enough, but it's a lot of winning for this core that has mostly been together. And so we also have the benefit of seeing under the hood and seeing all the preparation that goes into it. We learned about some opportunities to help and support our group a little bit better, and that ultimately gave us the confidence that we could be exceptionally competitive.
And for people across the country who are just kind of tuning in to this team, who haven't paid a lot of attention to this season, how would you describe this roster?
I think our broadcast has done a very good job of that, and it's a group that cares about one another, that plays exceptionally hard, that is going to make every game competitive and interesting with exceptional contact ability, a really good defense, a really competitive pitching group that is exceptionally aggressive. So it's an exciting brand of baseball that it's great to see that the group has been embraced so well by the fans. Makes me feel very good for the players. A lot of gratification for the players to see how significantly they've been embraced by our fans.
Russ, when you think back to end of 24 and some of the changes that were made, the discussions you had with players and coaching staff and colleagues in the front office, what from those discussions that was implemented this season bore the most fruit for you and led to the type of turnaround you experienced?
Yeah, I mean, Shai, it's a really fair question. It's a hard thing to answer because, talking about getting under the hood and opening up the engine is, if we're pointing to a correction, then we're also pointing to something that was a problem. So it's never my instinct to unintentionally point fingers at anyone but myself. So, and that would be intentional, hopefully. But I think it's just been a collective effort to focus on things that we can control and focus on getting better every day. We did make changes to our advanced process. We did make changes to our fundamental process. We made changes to our deployment process, but talking about them specifically is hard to do for 2 reasons. One is that I'd rather not tell other teams how we're doing it, and 2, I don't want to unintentionally point a finger somewhere.
Brandon Wild to Score. When you signed George Springer, how much did his postseason success go into that equation, and how important is it for this roster to have someone that's won before on the team?
Yeah, it's hard. It's a hard thing to quantify, but it definitely impacts you when you're at the potential finish line of getting a deal done. And it was a very real thing subjectively for us, but it's a hard thing to put into adding additional year to acquire a player or adding another X million of dollars in AAV to acquire the player. But it was a very real feeling and sentiment that that would add value to the organization.
A couple of players have mentioned how they feel like the front office and the player group are more kind of on the same page this year. What areas do you feel like that alignment has showed up?
Yeah, I mean, I would say all the things that I said. You know, we've tried to get better every day and been open to learning and open to improving any way that we can. If that is communication, if that is environment, if it's hard to say if there's one or two things that really impacted them that way. So probably a better question for them.
What have you seen from Trey in his first 3 starts, and do you expect him to be a factor in the postseason?
Yeah, he's handled himself very well. His combination of how he gets to his release point, his fastball, his split, the slider, both-handed hitters, he's been very effective and obviously handled things exceptionally well, and I would expect him to be a part of us preventing runs.
Hey, Ross, Rosie again. Apart from the metrics, which speak for themselves, are you able to put your finger on one defining quality about this team which accounts for their dramatic turnaround?
I think it's both sides of the ball. That, you know, how many players are helping us prevent and score. So, you know, the defense, the contact, the aggressive nature of our pitchers come after hitters, and you know that's turned into some damage. But we would always prefer that pitchers are aggressive and not backing down from confrontation or from any challenge. So.
What about just a sense of the clubhouse?
I mean, that's that. You know, just not backing down. Yeah, so it's just both sides of the ball and not backing down from any challenge.
Last one here from Mike.
Ross. With Ernie Clement, I think it was 90 appearances at second, 60 at third, and 30 at shortstop, or 20 at shortstop. You talk about your deployment process. Can you just talk a little bit about what you saw in him when you decided to bring him in and how that turned into this and what he did to make this happen this year?
Yeah, we were really fortunate to be in the position we were to to acquire him and then have the runway for him to play. But I think the league saw it. I think the industry saw he had pedigree, and there was a very good athlete, a really dynamic player that hadn't quite reached his potential yet, and we had the opportunity to acquire him in a time where we also had the runway for him to play at the major league level after he performed exceptionally well in AAA. So he's a very well-known player in the industry.
And just as far as Eric Lauer goes, who had the ball in his glove when the season ended, is he, out of all the where would you be without players, especially on the pitching side, given what he did when he got here in April and how he stabilized everything, is he the most where would you be without?
It's so hard to say. I mean, I don't want to, chip away at the contributions of Nathan Lucas and Ernie and some of our relievers that really stepped up and Fish and Flew. So, but our hope is that someone else would have stepped up. And if Eric Lauer didn't have his performance, then there would have been another player that would have risen to the occasion in some way.
Thank you. Alejandro, you had a great season. How much did it help you once you got your contract signed, that you were 5 years, you knew the Blue Jays had confidence in you? How much did that give you confidence that you were a big part of this team?
Tuviste una buena temporada, Alejandro. El contrato, ¿cómo te ayudó al firmar el contrato por 5 años, darte un poquito más de confianza para tener la temporada que tuviste?
Bueno, en realidad, yo creo que obviamente te da un poquito de confianza, pero para mí lo más importante fue cómo me preparé en el off-season, la meta que teníamos clara en equipo. Y bueno, yo creo que eso es más importante que los 5 años y el contrato y todo eso.
Yeah, definitely. It gave me a lot of, a little bit of confidence signing that contract. But I think the key for me this year was more the way I prepare myself in the off season, and the goal that we had as a team this year. But definitely, yeah, obviously signing that deal will always give you a little bit of more confidence.
When you think about the overall performance of your pitching staff, the starters and the relievers, how much do you think that has to do with the way they were aggressive all year long and a lot of them through first pitch strikes, which led to a lot of their success?
Hablando del picheo, ¿cómo tú crees que eso tuvo mucho éxito con todo el staff de picheo tuyo?
Bueno, yo creo que fue muy importante, ¿no? Yo creo que hicieron un buen trabajo todo el staff. También el staff que tenemos en analítico, yo creo que también al brindarnos toda esa información, también es obviamente eso es muy importante.
Yeah, I think, they all did a great job, the entire pitching staff. I always say that, and not just the pitchers, job. I think on the analytics side, all the staff that they put together great information all year for us. I think that would help us a lot, and that was very important through the season.
Alejandro, how important is this 5 days off for you after the after your workload during the season, and how do you stay sharp through a week off?
¿Qué tan importantes son estos 5 días, ¿verdad? Para ti, de descanso después de una temporada que, ¿verdad? Cachaste bastante, fue mucho trabajo para ti, y a la misma vez cómo tú te mantienes enfocado.
Bueno, muy importante, ¿no? Yo creo que todos lo necesitamos, yo lo necesitaba, pero de igual manera, ¿no? Venir aquí con un propósito. Estos días no son días de vacaciones tampoco. Hay que venir a hacer el trabajo, a hacer repeticiones y bueno, mantenernos enfocados para lo que viene.
Definitely, we all needed that those 5 days physically. It was a long season, but at the same time, these days we have a goal. We have a goal, and we got to stay focused. We got to keep going through our routines every day, work hard, and be ready whenever for Saturday.
And as far as the pitchers go, you know them better than anybody. Do you think how can you guys make sure that this layoff helps more than it hurts?
Tú conoces los pitchers más que cualquiera. ¿Qué tan importante y cómo vas a hacer para mantener a los pitchers enfocados estos días de descanso y que no se distraigan sobre eso?
Bueno, como dije, no, venir aquí a hacer las repeticiones, hacer lo que ellos vienen haciendo toda la temporada. Yo creo que no hay que hacer nada diferente, solo mantenerse un poquito más enfocados y bueno, seguir el plan de trabajo que tenemos.
I think what they've been doing all season, stay focused. You don't have to do anything different. Just keep sharp, keep working hard, going through the same routines they went through the entire year, and that's good. They're going to be fine.
Hi, Alejandro. What was it like working with a new guy in your catching room this year? So many years with Danny before, but what did Tyler kind of bring to those meetings and to the catching work overall for you guys?
¿Cómo fue para ti trabajar con Jaime este año? Obviamente todos estos años estuviste trabajando con Jensen. Algo diferente que trajo Jaime contigo a la mesa. ¿Cómo fue esa química contigo?
Bueno, excelente persona. Todos sabemos que ha jugado bastante, tiene bastante experiencia. Bueno, yo creo que es un excelente jugador, tuvo un tremendo año y yo creo que nos ayudó bastante a todos.
Definitely, first of all, Tyler, excellent human being. I think he brought a lot of experience for us this year. We all know he played a lot, long career, and he definitely helped myself and held the team a lot this year. Plus, he did have a great season this year also as well.
Hello, Alejandro. Andrew Brennan, CP24. I know, and I'm going to ask Senor Translator to emphasize when we say modest, I know that you're a modest person when people talk about you being either the heart of the team or someone that just inspires people. That being said, every time that I see people criticizing you online and then you prove them wrong, this is a fan base that, quite frankly, loves you. Do you ever think about how much you mean to this team?
Él sabe que tú eres una persona modesta, ¿verdad? Y sabes todo lo que tú has pasado, todo el trabajo que te ha costado básicamente llegar aquí. Hasta cuando ¿verdad? Te criticaban, algunas veces que han hecho críticas sobre ti, tú siempre te has mantenido de igual manera, pero tienes idea también de que mucho te quiere aquí la ciudad de Toronto.
Sí, de verdad que siento mucho el cariño de todo el país, no nomás de la ciudad, de los fanáticos, y eso es algo muy especial y voy a estar siempre agradecido con ellos. Yo creo que por eso fue que firmé aquí.
Tell you what, the main reason I signed here, it was just because that, not just the people that I feel from the people from Toronto, so from the entire country. Everywhere I go, I feel that love, and that's why I'm here. That's why I decided was a big deal on me signing here.
And as a follow-up about those people, I was outside the last couple of days talking with fans from Newfoundland, from Medicine Hat, Alberta, and they're staying. Some of them are staying here for the inter-squad scrimmage happening today. What do you think about preparing for the playoffs by having fans get to enjoy watching a bit of fun?
Básicamente, así como él, mucha gente de diferentes ciudades aquí en Canadá se han quedado esta semana para estar aquí presente durante los juegos que vamos a tener de Inner Squad. ¿Qué tú crees de eso, de que tengamos fanáticos durante estos días apoyándonos aquí?
Bueno, es algo muy importante, ¿no? Siempre quieren vernos jugar. Son 5 días que no vamos a estar jugando, pero bueno, es algo que siempre los jugadores queremos, ¿no? Tener aficionados y tener ese apoyo para el equipo.
Definitely, very important, not just for me, for the rest of the players, having that support from the fans here in Toronto, and like I say, in the entire country. It's something that we love. Even though it's gonna be 5 days without the fans pretty much watching us play, but yeah, having them here, it's gonna be unbelievable.
120 games this year, more than you'd ever caught. How did that workload feel throughout the year, and how are you feeling physically right now?
Sabes que cachaste 120 juegos por ahí este año. ¿Cómo se sintió eso del peso básicamente para tu cuerpo y cómo te sientes ahora?
Yo creo que no es nada fácil, ¿verdad? Es mi primer año cachando tantos juegos, pero creo que la manera en que el equipo lo manejó no se sintió tan pesado, ¿no? Supieron bien administrarlo durante toda la temporada, del día 1 hasta el domingo, ¿no? Y bueno, el staff de los trenes y todo ello supimos manejarlo de muy buena manera.
It wasn't easy. I gotta be honest. It's the first time, like you mentioned, I got 120 games, but the way the entire organization managed my time, like my games, I think helped a lot. Obviously the training staff did a great job, pretty much every day with me. But I think I'll say that the way they managed my game, it helped me a lot to be able to catch or to cut all those 120 games.
Alejandro, what did you learn about Trey Savage when you caught him last week, and what's your overall impression of what you've seen over the last 2 or 3 weeks from him?
¿Qué aprendiste de Trey cuando le cachaste o los días que él estaba aquí con nosotros?
Bueno, yo creo que está preparado para estos momentos. Se vio en la última salida, la manera en que pichó, la manera en que se comportó en el montículo. Yo creo que tiene un excelente staff de picheo y bueno, yo creo que va a jugar muchos años con nosotros.
Definitely, you can tell, man, he's prepared, especially in his last outing. The way he performed, the way he looked on the mound, the way he acts on the mound, it was unbelievable. You can really tell that Trey's going to be here for a long time.
Hello, Keegan Matheson, MLB.com. Nice to meet you. What's
Keegan, nice to meet you too.
Your understanding of where Bo is at right now, what he's doing these next few days?
Kind of more the same. He's doing more every day, hitting more. He'll be out in the field playing some catch. Not running yet, hopefully starting that soon, but doing everything he can to get back as soon as he can.
Anthony Santander, another variable for you. Like, do you envision him on this roster, and is that a daily role or more situational?
Yeah, I mean, I think continue to see how he feels the next couple days, but yeah, I can certainly envision him on the roster. And use him like we do everyone, kind of as we see fit, you know, kind of what the best matchup is, who we're going to be facing, and what kind of his overall game brings, you know. I think everyone's kind of in the same boat. Well, some guys aren't, but I think most guys are in the same boat where they're going to be ready for anything.
John, Greg Ross from CBC. Just these next couple of days with these inter-squad games, how closely will you try to simulate a real game situation and to try to keep their heads in the game, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good we're doing it the way we're doing it, with crowds, with anthems, with music, with in-between inning breaks. When you play every single day, you kind of get a little bit of baseball withdrawal, you know, myself included, to where you can get a little stale. So hopefully we can replicate a little bit of energy. You know, work is the main thing, but we're going to try to make everything as game-like as possible, between noise and kind of I mean, it won't look like a real game per se. You know what I mean? Guys, if they hit their pitch count and they're good, we're going to take them off the mound and things like that. There's going to be some guys playing defense more than they're hitting. But I think we're doing everything when it comes to kind of the atmosphere and the routine of it as closely as we can to a game.
John, how different are expectations when you win the division as opposed to entering the playoffs via the wild card route?
Good question. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a little bit different, right? Because you've earned this time off and earned a certain seed compared to a lower one, I guess, right? But different for sure. But it's baseball, man. You guys watched the games yesterday. Anything can happen, any given play, any given pitch. So it's still, I think we're approaching it like, you know, playoff baseball, not that we're just waiting to go out here and win by any means. You know what I mean? So I love the fact that we get to play here, for one. I think that's really important for us. But I think guys will handle it like they would any other postseason game, really. But just because you won the division doesn't mean it's a foregone conclusion you're going to keep going, you know. So you got to be ready to play.
Earlier, Ross said that he believes that Vlad's going to be a force in the playoffs. I mean, you've known him for a long time, back to his teenage years. What about him suggests to you that he can be a force in the playoffs and rise to the challenge and occasion that brings?
For one, his talent, you know, and I think, two, him kind of really understanding and appreciating where he is with this organization right now. Not just in terms of his contract, but I think kind of just his importance to this organization, how hard he's worked to get here. Guys have a certain way of either, you know, stepping up or kind of looking around and getting caught in it, you know. And I think that Vlad has been through enough ups and downs in the postseason to be ready to step up, you know. I think the couple days off is good for him physically, good for a lot of guys physically, but Vladdy's one of the most talented players in the game. And I always say that the definition of clutch is doing what you normally do when the stakes are higher. And I think that Vlad has a really good mindset right now going into the playoffs. And, you know, you've heard him say the job's not finished a couple times after clinching and then after clinching, you know. So that and his talent makes it a pretty easy guy to count on.
John, Mike Wilner from the Toronto
Star.
Mike.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to see you. When you say Bo's not running yet, and we're 72 hours away from the first pitch of the series, I know you don't want to say anything to the positive or negative that firms things up, but how hopeful, how much hope should there be that he might be able to play in the DS?
I can't answer that like on a percent or 1 to 10. We'll know on Friday, really, is what it comes down to. And I'll never put anything past Bo, you know, in terms of when people say he can't do something and him proving them wrong. So it's a big couple days for him, obviously, you know, and I think that if he's ready, we'll obviously welcome him back with open arms. And if he's not, I think that's another thing you want to play for, is to keep going and get him back, hopefully, in the next round. But I think the next 2 days will be really big.
And as far as the starting rotation goes, is Bassett on track to potentially be able to help you in this series? And do you see running the pitching staff sort of similarly to the way you did over 162, or with the shorter series and the higher stakes? Are there going to be different things happening than we're used to seeing?
In terms of Chris, he's going to throw tomorrow in our sim game tomorrow, and kind of, a couple ups and see how he feels. He threw off the mound yesterday and felt good today. So I think we cross that bridge after tomorrow, or even Friday after he throws the next day with Chris, to see physically how he's feeling, and then after that decide how he would fit in. But I think Chris can help us in a variety of roles for sure if he's physically ready. And in terms of the staff, yeah, I mean, I know a 5-game series is weird, just like a 3-game series. But I think right now the way we're kind of mapping it out is to kind of run it like we've run it the whole year. There's always some creativity going on in the postseason, I feel like, around the league, when guys are coming in, how long starters go, things like that. But I think we have a few plans in place for a variety of different reasons, really. Who pitches where, who goes what game, and how that could affect the rest of the series going forward. So not finalized yet, but I don't expect anything to be glaringly different than what we've done all year.
Hey, Skip, Rosie from the
Hi,
Toronto
Rosie.
Star here. Hoffman, his velocity has dipped significantly this season. It's probably a major factor in the number of runs that he's given up in home runs, even though 33 saves is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
What is your level of confidence going into the postseason with him?
Him and everyone, I always have, again, I feel like I'm captain positive, but I have a lot of confidence in all these guys. Hoff's thrown a lot, and we've asked a lot of him. And I think that at this time of year, again, everything gets a little magnified. I don't want to lose sight of, the 3-up, 3-down innings that he has had. In terms of the velocity, that comes and it goes. And it comes with workload, and it comes with kind of mechanical things. And I think you can talk about a hitter kind of grinding, and you can say his swing is a little bit off. You can talk about a pitcher kind of grinding and his delivery being a little bit off. I've talked about that about Kevin Gausman, I feel like, this year. When it's on, it's right. And I think Hoff is kind of going through a little bit of that with his delivery, which leads to the velo. And it's stuff that he's working on every day, stuff that we're trying to tackle. But at the end of the day, I trust every single one of those guys, and I think they all understand that roles aren't going to be too different, but we are going to ask guys to come in maybe in some spots they're not used to, or that's just kind of how the nature of the beast goes in the postseason. You're trying to find the right lane for each guy's skill set, if you will, and again, not trying to reinvent the wheel, not trying to force things that we haven't done before, but I think just really understanding where everyone is kind of right now and how they're feeling and what their stuff looks like, and get them in the best possible spot.
Supplementary, you did use Sir Anthony in that spot on the weekend, I guess. So how open would you be, knowing how crushing a blown save is, how open would you be to deploying somebody else in that closer role? Or is it too late in the day to change that?
Yeah, I'm not going to sit here and say we're changing closers, you know what I mean, before the series starts. But I think they're all going to know that we're going to there's a lot of guys that I trust to close a game. And Jeff obviously did that 33 times this year for us. So if it lines up to where it's him, great. If it lines up to where it's someone else, I think that's fine too. If we need one of those guys who we really trust earlier in the game, that's fine too. And you kind of work backwards from that point.
John, Dan Schulman, Sportsnet, how are you?
Hi, Dan. Good to see you.
You too. You're obviously working through who is on the roster, but on the pitching side, are you still working through how many, whether it's 12 or 13, for example, that you're taking?
Yeah. I feel like we've been talking about that for a few days. I feel like I'm thinking about that in my sleep right now. But, yeah, still trying to finalize exactly, 12 or 13. Kind of make that decision first, kind of in lockstep with how we deploy our roster, and how we use our bench too. So you don't want to lose sight of either one of those things. But I think that you try to narrow it down as much as you can to guys you're really going to use, and try to not put someone on the roster that may not be used, you know what I mean, based on their role or their stuff, whatever it may be. So still working through it. It's been a long process. Hopefully we get it done later today, tomorrow, so we can let some guys know. But it could go either way.
And can someone say like Mason Fluharty, who had just 3 or 4 great appearances recently, can that change not only the if question but the how question, how to deploy question? Like, can a couple of weeks really alter the decision-making process?
Yeah, I mean, this guy's gotten huge outs for us, right? I think everything comes into play. I think, performance comes into play. You try not to have recency bias, but human beings do. And then you look at who we're going to be playing, and kind of what we're going to need to hopefully combat, a specific lineup.
John, Jennifer Hedger, TSN. Was today the first day that everyone's back in the building, or have the guys been in already?
Yeah, most were in yesterday. Some guys kind of just coming in, getting treatment. I wanted to kind of build it up a little bit, kind of the volume of what we're doing. So yesterday was kind of light. Some guys hit, some guys got off the mound, and some guys just came in to say hi and get some treatment. Today everyone's here. Some guys will do a little bit lighter work today than others, just based on kind of their physical well-being at this time of year, and try to ramp up again tomorrow to make it as close to a game as you can, and then Friday kind of just get ready for the weekend. So, like I said at the beginning of this, it's hard to go from playing 4 games where you basically have to win, and there's adrenaline and there's anxiety and there's ups and there's downs, to just kind of turning it off. I think the guys and the coaches deserve to turn it off for a day. And then get back into it. But today should feel like a pretty normal day. We've got a hitters meeting, we've got early hitting, we've got batting practice, we got a game. So just trying to get guys back into the swing of things.
Hi, John. Jeff Teolis, Blackburn Media. You've got a nice mix of veterans who've had some playoff experience, and you've got some young guys that are eager and probably just itching to go. What do you tell those young players to kind of stay contained and be in the moment?
Well, for one, I always tell guys to enjoy it, right? Postseason is something that you earn. And once you take a minute to enjoy it, you got to get back to what you're doing. But I think the veteran guys have done and are continuing to do a really good job of talking to the younger guys. And whether that's George or Max, whoever, I think that they can probably sit and think about scenarios that they've been in that these guys haven't thought of yet, and how, watching the games that are going on right now, how you never really know what's going to happen. The Cleveland-Detroit game is a perfect example of just taking care of the ball, not taking anything for granted, being smart on the bases, all that kind of stuff. I want them to enjoy it. I want them to understand that it's baseball. We're going to be playing a team on Saturday that we've played recently and that we're familiar with. So I think that gives them some comfort too. But the extracurriculars that go into it, the ceremonies and things like that, the pressure of every single swing, throw, that's a real thing, So I think kind of just having those guys there to talk through those situations and hopefully speed up the process of adjusting for the young guys will be good.
With CBC. This season's been full of so many unexpected and kind of improbable storylines. What sticks out for you about this team and how it's gotten here?
There's so much. I think, for one, you could. I mean, to a man, I can stand up here with a straight face and say you could feel it in spring training, this group and how connected they were, and how they kind of had the mentality of they didn't care what anyone else thought of us. And things that stick out, there's individual performances, whether it's Ernie Clement, Eric Lauer, Addison Barger, George Springer, Bo Bichette. I think those are easy things to kind of look at. But what's happened in the clubhouse and how connected they are is what I go to. And I've used the word selfless a lot. And these guys really root for one another. They don't care who gets the job done. They don't care if they don't start. They know they have a chance to impact the game in some way. They don't care if I pinch hit for them. They don't care if I take them out for defense. They just don't care, you know. When we started this whole thing, you know, I told the guys what's important now, which very cleverly spells W-I-N, what's important now. And if we can just focus on that, and if they can take the skills that they have to help with that, we'll be in a pretty good spot. And they've lived it, you know what I mean? They've just kind of embraced it and they've lived it. So that was kind of the starting point. And then they go out, and I think that the guys see how good they are. You know, they see that they're being counted on in big spots, and it gives them a whole lot of confidence. So that's the biggest thing, is how it's not one guy. It's not one pitcher. And some guys that helped us get to this point, you know, aren't going to be on our playoff roster. You know, they're finishing the year in AAA. So it's a collective effort.
Hey, John. Shai Davidi.
Hey, Shai.
Do you anticipate much difference between what the roster construct would look like, whether it's the Yankees or the Red Sox?
I don't think it'd be very different from a it may tweak a little bit from a pitching side. That's about it. You know, it's one team that's very heavy left-handed, one team that's, you know, Boston being a little bit less. More left-handers in the bullpen for Boston than New York, but I think there may be a couple tweaks, mainly on our pitching side. But other than that, I think kind of how we've rolled it out all year is how we're going to continue to do it.
You've been deliberate with Trey Savage all season. How comfortable would you be with using him out of the bullpen now, after he just started in the majors and just had the limited bullpen looks in AAA and AA?
Yeah, I think Trey is definitely, you know, part of the puzzle, you know, and me personally, I have no problem with him starting and no problem with him coming out of the bullpen. Started, you know, from this series that starts Saturday to as far as we go. You know, I think that, again, it was nice that we deliberately did that with him and his routine in AAA, and he's obviously earned some starts here. So either way we feel like is best for him and for us. I trust him either way.
How have you been watching Yankees Red Sox? Are you keeping a close eye? Are you checking highlights? Are you watching it with an eye towards ideas for what some things you could use on the weekend? How are you approaching that?
Yes. Yeah, watching for sure, trying to watch all these games. But I think, you know, there's always, you can prepare for any team, right? And then there's always a few things that you try to highlight, a few things that you try to look at a little bit more carefully. I think both those teams, you know, they play their game, you know, indicative by their lineups yesterday, lefty, righty, and how they make moves and who comes out of the bullpen, things like that. But I think there's certain things you look at, you know, from a defensive, a base running standpoint, what they're trying to do tactically, what their pitchers are trying to do tactically, if it's anything different with holding runners or things like that. Good teams that get to this point make adjustments, and they know that teams are familiar with them. So there's usually a wrinkle thrown in there from somebody in some way, shape, or form. So looking at those things a little bit more closely.
All right, thank you.